We are going viral. Denny Hamlin is fresh off his Daytona 500 win. He's won the race 3 times in the last 5 years. And as amazing as that is, he's not the only one celebrating on the track. Check out these guys throwing a bowling ball out of the race car to set the record for the world's fastest strike, 140 miles per hour.
All of this stuff is amazing. Nothing is more amazing than Ryan Newman walking out of the hospital less than 48 hours after that incredibly scary crash on the final lap at Daytona. I cannot believe that he's okay, but thank goodness he's okay.
Right. Miraculous is really not too strong.
It does not.
To use in this situation.
I mean, I just, you know, holding hands with his daughters.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It was a beautiful.
I mean, I feared the worst, right? Didn't everybody fear the worst and hope for the best?
Not to mention the early reports.
Right, and they got the screens up and they enter, they take the media out, and it's not just that he's okay going to survive. He walked out yesterday.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
He'll probably be back in the car pretty soon.
Speaking of walking out, time now for Stories to Start Your Morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. The Cleveland Cavaliers announced yesterday that John Beilein has officially resigned as head coach and will be reassigned to a different role in the organization. Chris, right move by the Cavs.
Oh, yes. I mean, this was, look, I was hearing incredibly early during the season, before even all the stories came out about, you know, and he called the players thugs, and maybe it was a he misspoke, but I was hearing right away that this was not going to last, and he could be fired or step down or whatever. But look, out of respect for Beilein and all he's done in college basketball, I gave him a shot. I felt like, look, the dude is a very good coach. There's no question about it. They've got young players. Let's see what happens. But it just didn't seem right? A 67-year-old college basketball lifer going to the NBA at that stage, it didn't seem like it would work.
Not just that, but the staff he put together was bizarre, right? Outside of J.B. Bicker's staff, who's now taking over, he didn't have former NBA guys. You have to have a conduit. If you haven't spent your life or any time in the NBA, you have to have guys next to you, especially former players that can relate to these guys. I mean, the whole thing was a mess. This is, I know people are coming out and saying, well, you know, college coaches, like, nah.
Brad Stevens doing pretty well.
Brad Stevens is, and Billy Donovan's having a great year, and he's had some up and downs. Part of it is this. Most times, college coaches take bottom-rung jobs like this, and it's really, really hard to see through the dark days into the bright days, right? Like, everybody thought, like, listen, I grew up around David Fizdale. He's a little older than me in Southern California. I thought that would work with the Knicks. It was, I mean, it lasted, what, like a year and a month or something, and he gets run out of New York. So it's not just college coaches. It's a hard league. It's hard to go through the tanking and to see the other side. But yes, this was a disaster from the moment they hired him, being that old and never having worked in the NBA.
All right, on to some football, where the NFL playoff structure could reportedly change. Under the current CBA proposal, 7 teams from each conference will make the playoffs with only 1 bye per conference. So, Doug, what do you make of this?
I don't like it because I think it disproportionately rewards the 1 seed. You know, I think like the 1 seed is the only one that gets the bye. Everybody else has to play 3. I think the final 2 teams in should play against each other. Right? And so there's a lot to it, but I like the idea of more playoff teams.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's about money, but it's also about, you know, you want a greater shot because the league is so even. The Steelers would have gotten in this year based upon these rules, and the Rams would have gotten in. You know, and listen, the Rams, as much as they're 9-7, were a disappointment. They're obviously in the most difficult division in football, and it would have been interesting to see them in a second season. I don't like the disproportionate weighting for the 1 seed.
Look, I think the playoffs are great the way they are. You know, I think they're perfect. I wouldn't mess with it. I don't hate this idea because I love football. And yeah, another team in the playoffs adds to more excitement. So I'll live with it, but I wish they'd just keep it the way it is. I'm with you on the bye, though. This was the 7th straight Super Bowl where both teams in the game had the bye.
Yes.
So that's how important the bye is. New England's never won a Super Bowl if they're 6 without the bye. So when you said it, when you give 1 team and 1 team only a bye week, that is a huge advantage. And I also think you always run the risk when you let more teams in of diminishing the regular season a little bit more. Now, granted, NFL's got the advantage of only 16 games. Maybe it's 17 now. That helps, but I don't think it's necessary. It's just messing with something that's not broken.
All right, on to the Cowboys. Dak Prescott is coming off the best statistical year of his career, which means this offseason he's in line to become the highest paid player in the league. But Cowboys Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith thinks Dak should take a different route. Take a listen.
Dak has to understand and maybe take another perspective. The perspective may not be all the money that you get. It may be how much of the money you're willing to leave on the table, because the Cowboys is a marketable organization.
And so if you got all that extra money, that's
so
not,
if you are the face of the franchise, would it not, instead of taking 35, would you take 28 and leave some for Amari and pick up the other 35 through endorsements?
All right, CB, a Cowboy legend. Is Emmitt right? Should Dak take a team-friendly deal?
Look, like everyone, I love Emmitt Smith, but this sounds like en route to that interview, he was on the phone with Jerry Jones.
you can barely see the strings when he moves his hands.
Well, and here's the thing, too. Emmitt is not the right messenger, because we all remember after they won the Super Bowl in 1992, Emmitt held out for more money, and that was justified because he needed to get his money, but he missed the first 2 games. They go 0-2, and he comes back. Now, later in that interview, as you were telling me earlier, he had said he wanted $28 million over 4 years. Okay, he settled for $13.5 million over 4 years, which was the highest money an NFL running back had ever received. Here's the thing. I don't believe the 28. Maybe in his mind he wanted 28. That's like a quarterback today thinking, well, I really wanted 50 a year, and I settled for 40. No, Dan Marino was the highest paid player in the league at that time, making $4.4 million. So Emmitt settled for, what, $3.5 million as a running back. So Emmitt's just not the right messenger. Philosophically, I am not against guys taking a little less. Now, 35 to 28, that's too big of a gap for me. But if Dak really needed to help the team to, instead of taking 35, take 32, and we'll be able to bring back all these different guys, philosophically, I would be fine with that. I'm not against a player that wants every last dollar, but I think winning is important. And the difference between 32 and 35 a year, to me, that doesn't change your lifestyle at all. So, and if you win more, you get more endorsements, money off the field.
Right.
So I'm with that, but I don't think Dak has to. I think they can figure out how to keep Amari, even if Dak gets market value. Byron Jones is probably gone anyway. Your offensive line is set up for the next 4 years.
Defense,
you got your running back. But you got some pieces that I know they weren't as strong this year as usual, but I don't think he needs to take the pay cut for them to remain strong. But if he does, then I'm not against a little bit of a haircut, but not $7 million a year.
Well, look, I do agree that clearly it's a plant from Jerry Jones, right? I mean, you almost thought he's going to break out into the Jerry Jones accent at the time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but look, and this is the same Emmitt Smith that told Ezekiel Elliott that he should get all his money, and Ezekiel Elliott just held out. Like, part of this whole problem is Zeke cut in line. Right, there was a progression that they wanted to get Dak done or Amari done first, and then work to Dak, and then Zeke was going to play on the 5th-year option, and then eventually get him his money. He cut in line, so now they're...
Is that smart on his part? Probably, right?
I guess,
probably
but not for the team, because now, if you franchise Dak, you can only franchise one guy. So if you franchise Dak, now Amari hits the open market, and now you run the risk of somebody coming in and taking Amari Cooper, who, with the exception he had, a disappointing end to the season, but did change this team going back to 2 years ago when they acquired him from the Raiders. So I think they're a little bit pot committed to Amari.
They need to keep him.
But I think there's a couple of truths that he's saying. One that's obvious, which is, like, look, this is a long-term deal. You're an NFL quarterback. This is not your last contract. If you can be quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys for a decade, you're going to make 200-some-odd million on the field. You can equal that off the football field, right? Like, Roger Staubach is maybe the most successful businessman post-football in the history of the sport, and Roger Staubach was an iconic Navy, but part of it was he was the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Emmitt Smith, same thing. Like, look on TV, Troy, Romo, Irvin, like even Emmitt, right? Emmitt wasn't any good, and they kept putting him on TV. So he's right that the Cowboys brand is that strong. But I also think the other thing he's saying, which we all know, and it's really hard to say out loud, so he didn't, which is, that ain't that good. He's just not. He's not good enough to where he can not only demand top dollar, but make it work if they can't get an Amari Cooper. He needs Amari. He needs Zeke. He needs the offensive line. He needs help. He's a Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network. He has this thing called tractors or trailers, right? If you're a tractor, you can pull everybody along. If you're a trailer, you're kind of along for the ride, okay? He's a trailer. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Drew Brees in his prime. You know, he's not Pat Mahomes. He can't make it work.
But is it about
and even
respect?
Aaron Rodgers, as great as he is, he hasn't been able to get back to the Super Bowl without having enough help around him.
Right. I mean, and here's a stat. Over the last 10 years, okay, the guy with the highest cap hit at quarterback in the National Football, or highest cap hit is always quarterback. 8 out of those 10 years, team didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
Because you have to have a team. Like, that's the whole genius to the Patriots thing, is that Tom Brady would always take a little bit less so they could spread it around. Now, I'm sure it's growing to frustration for Brady at this point in time. He wants the respect of having a say, and he wants a little bit more money. But, like, look, Dak Prescott, I understand that you've been underpaid because you're a 4th-round pick. Okay, and the Dallas Cowboys found you. He had the DUI before the draft. I think that hurt him. But he fell into Tony Romo's team that was set up, and all he had to do was hand it off, screen pass. It was very easy his first couple years, and he's grown into a very good quarterback, the #1 offense in football. But, like, look, dude, if you want all these weapons around you, if you want to do this for 10 years and wear the star on the side of your helmet, take a little bit less, maybe not the 28, but maybe a 30. Trust me, it'll work out.